All right, peace, family. This is Brandon B. Dixon. You're tuned into the Power of Ownership podcast. We're live here. Um, just going over real quick the 48 laws of power. Let me introduce myself real quick, and I got Steve Contreras on the line, my guest host, and he's gonna introduce himself, and then we're gonna get right in. Um, if you're first time tuning in, my name is Brandon B. Dixon. I'm a serial entrepreneur, mortgage broker, published author, community activist, so on and so forth. My book, Sales the Nucleus of Any Profession, is out right now. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, so on and so forth. Mortgage season, I'm inundated with a lot of mortgages. So, www.hocmortgage.com if you want to get a mortgage and get you a brand new home or investment property. Steve, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we can go ahead and get started on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Stephen Contreras here. I'm from Houston, Texas, geologist out here. I'm kind of a studier of all the sciences and arts, Renaissance man in a way. And I just like to learn and try to do my best each and every day. Thanks for having me.
Right. The Power of Ownership podcast, if this is your first time tuning in, we talk about ownership of properties, of course, because I am a mortgage broker. Getting your first property, getting an investment property, so on and so forth. Ownership of businesses, because I am a sales trainer and entrepreneur, so I'm an expert in that. Also, people have come to me as a mentor and as a coach in the spiritual realm as well. So I'm known as a spiritual coach. So the Power of Ownership, we bridge the gap between,
like an angel, right?
Right. So they kind of come to me like as a mentor. So we bridge the gap on this podcast between the unseen realm and the seen realm, because you won't have any success in this seen realm if you don't know how to master the unseen realm, or at least have a grip on the unseen realm. So that's kind of what we go over. One of the best working tools that I've come across in the seen realm that I use since my first business that my cousin and I used to study is this book by Robert Greene. It's called 48 Laws of Power. And it's one of those books that really had a unique impact on my life. And we're going over law by law, giving my opinion on what I thought then and how it's evolved now since I'm more enlightened. And we've been going straight into it, so let's get started. We're not going to keep too long. We'll go over two laws real quick. We stopped on law 32. Play to people's fantasies.
Do you like this one?
Yeah, I mean it tied into I went over before when you start a cult like following, and that following. I think I talked about before. If y'all hadn't checked it out, check out a previous episode before where we talked about the law where it says make sure you recreate yourself, and was one law, and then create a cult like following was another law. I think this in my mind when I first heard this law 17 years ago when I went over it with my cousin, it was a continuation of those laws right there. So my perception of it is when we create this cult like following, we're doing what that particular person can't do. So we're living there. So that particular person that's following you, they're living vicariously through you. They're rooting for you. So a lot of, we at the time we were single guys. We were almost like Bruce Wayne or something like that. Single, successful businessmen living that particular lifestyle. And we wanted to film and document that. And we built up a cult like following just off of that, and you got to play to their fantasies. You got to, meaning that the fantasy of like a lot of married guys and a lot of people that just didn't have the gift of gab couldn't do what we do, fly and travel, do the things, females and so on and so forth. So that was kind of what I thought then. It's kind of morphed now, and I'll let you go ahead and chime in. It's morphed as far as most people think, just knowing what this is now, most people live in a fantasy land. Play the people fantasies now is to kind of support their delusion.
Yeah, I agree.
So you don't want to burst everybody's bubble, especially in business when you're trying to get them to spend money with you. So that's how it's kind of that law's kind of totally made like a total different spin for me.
Yeah.
You know, even with like discussions like with family members and stuff like that, when they used to have serious debates about religion and philosophy and all that stuff, and I used to burst their bubble because I'd be the most researched person there, so I tear them up.
Hmm.
Now, and it goes back to that, the Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. After you burst their bubble, they resent you. You might have won that battle, but you lost the war.
Yep. Yeah, it's like
So
that. Oh, go on.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like everyone has their ego, right? And that's what you're playing towards is you're feeding them the information through their ego. You're playing the game that they think they're playing, the fantasy, right?
Right,
And
right.
I
So
mean, this one's pretty easy to understand. I think it's like you don't want to, like you said, you don't want to go into, you don't want to lose the war, right? So like you play the slow game. You're not, I guess in a way you'd be manipulating them in a way, but I mean, it's like, are you really doing wrong? Because they're going to do it anyway. You're like you're feeding into their system, right? Because they're not going to listen to you anyway.
right, and if they do listen to you, they're gonna hate you for it. You know.
Yeah.
So it's totally, I'm totally mature on this. It's like, we have a saying in my community, keeping it real. And I took that literal into the extreme. Like I would be real about everything I say. So I would be honest about everything and try to be as honest. But most people don't want honesty. They want honesty according to what they think honesty is.
Yeah. People can't handle it.
Right. So they want the truth but can't handle the truth. So
Hmm.
you give them the truth as they know it.
Yeah. Even if you have to spoon feed it for them, like you're still playing into that law. You're playing into their fantasy. Even if you're trying to
Right.
just give them a little bit of nuggets. I guess that'd be the positive spin of it all.
Right. Well, everybody is not meant to be on a certain level. So we're taught to meet them on the level. So I could have a dialogue with anybody from any walk of life, because you got to find the common things. And I think this goes into the next one that we're going to talk about. Find the common thread that we all like.
Yeah. This one's so
We all
important.
Yeah, we all want to be safe. We all want to have healthy lives and healthy kids and safe environment, and those are the common things that every human being wants. You know, everybody loves to eat food and enjoy family members for the most part. Everybody kind of wants the same thing.
Yep.
So that's what you find that common ground instead of finding the differences. The differences, we go on forever on slicing. We could create any differences that we want.
Yeah, I was gonna say for this one, for the common ground, I'd use it when I was bartending before I was a geologist. To make more tips, I'd always talk about three things people like to talk about: politics, sports, and entertainment. And I just follow those things, and I might not necessarily like those things, but I'd always make sure I'm up to date, kept relevant, so that I could just talk to anybody about anything they wanted to talk to, just pretending to be
Well,
interested in it, even though like I could care less what the score of the game would really be.
well, that might work in a bar setting, but what I teach in my book is that the number one thing that people love to talk about is themselves, period.
Yeah.
And the number two thing is their kids. So for some reason, people are in love with themselves. I mean, they are the center of the universe. And I teach this in my book that, for that brief period when you're trying to get their money, they're right. So and you got to play to that fantasy. You got to play to the fantasy that they are the center of the universe. So whatever they want to talk about, if they got to not, like, say, for example, I got the Saints hat on. If you're a Saints fan, I'm gonna talk about the Saints. One thing you don't want to do is I had, and this is funny. I had this guy that's in a supervisory position. I hope he does watch the show where he can learn something. And right after the catastrophic playoff loss this year, basically.
That's horrible, wasn't it?
Right. So, and the guy knows I'm a Saints fan, but he should know if he doesn't, he's real clueless. So he says, yeah, you seen the game this weekend? I'm like, yeah, that's a catastrophe. He's like, yeah, man, I can't believe New England won. Like, what?
Yeah.
Seriously?
That was even the right conference, right?
Right. Like, so, but because the Chiefs was his team. So he was only talking about him. He didn't have any discourse for me.
Yeah.
So he didn't, either you don't care or you were clueless on how to connect. So, and for business owners, and if you're in a supervisor position, you're selling. You got to sell your employee to keep doing a good job. And vice versa. If you're an employee, you got to sell your boss that you're doing a good job. Everything is.
Yeah, everything is how.
That's why my book is so important.
Yeah, everything's like appearance, right? Like you want to portray yourself like you're trying to sell yourself or sell your idea, try to get that following up.
Sales, the way I teach it, is the nucleus of everything. Relationships, commerce, business, community, society. If you really know what sales is, so that's why my book is so important. He missed the moment to connect with me as a stellar rock star. I'm not really an employee. I'm more of an independent contractor. But if you're trying to make a relationship, there was your golden opportunity to connect. And you missed it by talking about yourself. I talk about this in the book. The more you talk about yourself, the more you lose people. People don't care about you.
Yeah, it's true. It's like you go watch our other videos. We talk pretty in depth about that.
Yeah, nobody cares, man. You want to talk about this their world, especially while they're spending money. I get that a lot. Don't you get that with telemarketers a lot?
About what?
Telemarketers, like people that call telemarketers and they try to sell your product, and then like, I don't really think so. And then they continue to go and tell you why I like it. It's awesome. Says who? Says you?
Like, I know it's overpriced. I'm not going to buy it,
Right. All right. So, because you said it's wonderful and awesome, that makes me buy it. Okay. Well, I changed my mind now. I had Yelp call me. I'm going to go ahead and call them out. I had Yelp call me. This is tell a quick story, then we'll get to the last one, because the last one was kind of light. It kind of continues with this one.
Okay.
I had Yelp call me, and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to pay for any like position right now because I'm just starting the business. This was about a year ago. I'm gonna just wait to get my organic views up, organically in reviews, and then I'm gonna make every client review me. Then I'll pay later on once my budget gets out. Well, you don't have to pay anything right now. I mean, again, I'm not paying anything right now. Period. I'm not doing a $300 credit. I'm not doing anything. So she continues to try to browbeat me into saying like, why I don't have to pay anything now. It's a delayed pay system, but I'm going to have to pay something in the next couple of months. So that's not in my budget. You're not listening to me. So she gets irate. I'm like, all right, now you're going to turn and ask me for money now? How? You're late. The conversation's over now.
Yeah.
You're done. You're toast. How can you recover from this?
Yeah, you really can't, right?
Yeah, you're done at that point. You're gonna try to browbeat the person. How can you ask for money?
Yeah, I mean, if we're just asked, like, me, I don't do it anymore. I hate asking for money. It's like it's the worst, you know. It's like I know people struggle and everything like that, but it's not a good feeling. No one likes to be there.
As far as what asking for money,
Hmm.
I mean, if you don't ask for money, if you don't ask for money, you can't be good in sales. You can't be good as a business person.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, and the reason why is because you should have no qualm as a doctor. Do you think a doctor have a qualm, any qualms about charging his patient?
oh no, not at all.
So, in turn, as a salesperson or as a businessman, um, you should have the same mind frame. You're the doctor. You're the expert in what you're trying to buy. You're the representative. Let's say if you're selling whatever sneakers, you're the sneaker expert. You came to my store to get my expert advice on these sneakers.
Yeah,
Other than
that's a
that,
good segue into the next law, right? How your
right,
insurance.
right. The next law is discover each man's thumb screw. That's what I got. Right.
Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry, I skipped ahead. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's number 33. Discover each man's thumb screw. Um, and it kind of relates to what I was saying, but it more relates to what I was saying earlier. Play to other people's fantasy is because um, each man. We talked about this earlier. Each man has, especially when you're managing employees, each one has their own um, motivation factor, motivation button, and you have to find out what that is. Um,
And
when
then
I didn't. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say yeah. And then everyone has like their panic button too. Like you can play both sides of the coin.
Right, right. Again, like I said, with the thumb screw, usually their motivation is their weakness. So that same coin, especially when you're dealing with employees, their motivation is their weakness. So if they're a family man, and that the family is what motivates them, that's also their weakness. So when you come to reprimand them, like, hey, listen, man, family, will be disappointed. Like, when you're not gonna have this money to pay the bills, you don't want to step up your game. So, the same thing that they're motivated by is uh, could be their weakness. Is most likely their weakness as well. So,
Yeah,
it's the same thing on the same coin. So again, that law is kind of a continuation. It really didn't make that much of an impact then because it kind of is a continuation of different laws, but it really didn't change now.
yeah. I mean, I like this one a little bit though because you can tell a lot about a person by how they present themselves, how their weakness really is. Like if someone likes to spend all their money on cars, you know, then you can look and be like, okay, well, you know how like it's time to talk to that person about cars. You know, they're gonna spend all their money on cars. You know, cars is their life, right? That's all they care about.
Right, right. Well, the thing is with the thumb screw, you have to find out if all right if they love cars, most likely their thumb screw is going to be protecting those cars, keeping those cars flawless.
Yeah,
So yeah,
which is a money pit kind of, right? In my opinion.
right. Well, it's a collection thing. For people that love cars, they probably love being nostalgic, and they're probably a collector, you know. And they probably love like speed. They love like going fast and stuff like that. But most likely, if they're collecting a car, there's some type of emotional attachment to that particular car or to that particular thing. So again, it's psychology. I'm not going to dwell too long on it, but 33 is a cool one, but that one wasn't really a really impactful one years ago. The real one was playing to people fantasies that really morphed, and I learned to kind of go with the flow. You're not going to change anybody by beating them up.
Yeah,
Go ahead and you know live like, go in there, especially if you're trying to sell them something, or you're on a date, just go ahead and play to the girl's fantasy, man. You're not going to win any points by showing her, oh, I'm different, so I'm going to think outside of the box, and you're wrong. All you're going to wind up is by yourself at the end of the night, bro.
Right there. That's like some really good advice for all the single guys out there trying to find a girl.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I need to add dating counselor to my resume. But now, if you read the book, your private life will improve as well, because it's all selling, especially if you're dating. If you talk about yourself, most likely you're going to be by yourself at the end of the night.
Yeah, it's true. Girls, and especially with women love talking about themselves. It's great. You just gotta listen. Sit back.
Exactly. Yep. Just sit back and listen, and make sure that you give your listening energy, because if not, they'll figure that you're kind of creepy. But make sure you give your listening energy. But it's not about you; it's about them and their world.
Yep.
So we're not gonna keep you too long. Again, let's go ahead and do the outros. Again, my name is Brandon B. Dixon. Get the God as a Verb t-shirt. They're only available for 7 more days. It's Instagram. Go to @BillionaireLoanOfficer. I'm on all my social media is @BillionaireLoanOfficer. Go to the Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, @BillionaireLoanOfficer. YouTube, which we're on right now, @BillionaireLoanOfficer. If you want to get a mortgage, if you're interested in a first-time home buyer program, down payment assistance is red hot right now. Investment properties, red hot right now. Call me or go to my website, www.hlcmortgage.com. Billionaire.com is coming soon. If you want to book me for mentorship, private consultation, or if you want to book me for sales training for your group, @BillionaireLoanOfficer.com. The book, Sales the Nuclear Profession, Selling Like Crazy. Get at it. It's going to be in your local bookstore soon, because when I go to Atlanta, I'm going to each bookstore out there and put them in each bookstore. So that's going to be coming locally soon as well.
Yeah, that's pretty big news. Congratulations.
All right. I mean, the work isn't done yet. I still got to do the work. So, again, get at, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. This is just the beginning. We got better equipment and all that stuff coming soon, so we're going to get more professionally produced. Steven, go ahead, do the outro, and then we go ahead and take them out.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, you can find me at Steven Contreras on Facebook, Steven Contreras 90 on Instagram, and yeah, make sure you hit that subscribe button, buy the book, buy the merchandise, and keep on supporting.
Right, and we're going to end on that note. Remember, God is a verb, and personal responsibility is your only savior. With that, we're going to say peace.
Peace.